And we are live! Ooh. And welcome back to another episode of The Daily Show. I'm your host, Jay Ludgrove, and each week we speak to people all over the world about what's happening with them in sales, marketing, brand building, and anything else that comes to mind. This week, we're very, very blessed to have the wonderful Farhana Cannon. How are you?
Well, how are you? Thank you for having me on.
No problem. It's and what time is it over there? Because you're based over in, are you in Boston?
I'm in Boston. It's 9 a.m.
Okay, well, thank you for getting up so early for us. We're at like 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So if I look a little more tired than Farhana, then please, everyone, forgive me. So for those people who aren't already following you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So, hey everyone, my name's Farhana Cannon, and I'm a global social media and brand expert and the founder of iMedia Exposure. And I've been doing events and marketing and digital marketing for the last 10 years and event marketing and things like that for the last 18 years.
Wow. And event marketing must be a whole new landscape over the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different these days that we're not allowed to go out and play. But yeah, there's been a ton of virtual events, and I think that people are still engaged and kind of want that sense of community. So I've even, on my digital products, I've even incorporated a component where there is us getting together and having conversations and doing our Zoom group meetings, just so people can feel a sense of like community and networking and dealing with humanity.
Yeah, otherwise it's just you talking to a screen the whole time. I've made such an effort to, when we're calling within the company, I FaceTime, because otherwise it's kind of just me sat here shouting at a phone or shouting at a microphone on my own. And it's exactly what you're saying. That sense of community is it's the brilliant thing about events. I used to work in the events industry in a previous life, and it's such a vibrant, awesome community full of so many people. And all of a sudden, it's kind of petrifying that it's been snatched away for so long. So it's great that you found areas to reinvigorate that for the time being.
Yeah, for sure. I was supposed to speak at 4 different events every single month of 2020.
Wow.
And that being changed, I love traveling. And when you're on the road for so long, the little period of time right after when you don't have to be, it feels nice. But then you're like, wait, this should be happening. Yeah.
I know it. And you start losing the sense. That you get a little kind of post-travel chill. It's all good, and then it's like, well, where's the next thing happening? Okay, so in that case, you love traveling. You haven't been able to for some time. How have you been? How have you been keeping your mind right?
Well, I still have been traveling, but shh, don't tell.
Shh. Nah, this is just between me and you. It's okay. But it's been an awful lockdown, right?
Well, I went to Cancun a couple months ago, and that was normal and nice. And I mean, people
Amazing.
wear masks, but that was vacation. Like, I like to travel for fun, but then also incorporate work in there.
Mm.
So I'm like, okay, a little bit of fun, a little bit of play, and some work, and then I feel like justified in my like adventures.
I like it, a little balance there.
Yeah.
So how without all these speaking gigs that aren't happening, how have you been filling your time instead?
Well, I've been connecting with a lot more people online and having conversations, doing podcasts and virtual events and things like that. And I started my own podcast as well, which if you caught me 8 years ago and you asked me if I would ever do any of those things, it would be like a hard no. But here we are, just reinventing and, take it. I think that you have to just go with what the times are serving you. And I think that's like super important with marketing too. Like you have to consistently be innovative. You can't just be like, oh, well, this thing worked for me then. It's like you have to consistently just do what's going to work now.
I can't remember who said it. I think Einstein said it, but doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of madness. And for some reason, it's in sales and marketing, you see people either overuse that great pitch. But this pitch was killer 18 months ago. I know, and you've said it every single day for 18 months. It's bored, it's tired. Or the same thing with marketing. That posting the banner ad there or doing this kind of video has always worked for us. I hate that term in marketing, always. Oh, we've always done it that way. Like, well, cool.
Yeah.
But how are you going to move forward, right?
And I think especially now, people's tastes and interest change so much more. And people know that they're being like marketed to or sold to. And that's not what they want. Like I'll sit there and watch like commercials during football games. I'm like, oh, that commercial is really great. Or I really like they touched on this emotional thing that everyone's thinking these days. And it's like those are the marketing campaigns that actually work when they are thinking about what's resonating with their target demographic and what their target demographic cares about at that moment, which is going to be different than what they're going to care about in the next 6 months.
That's it. And obviously it causes a huge problem for businesses and marketers to, like, I've got to think of the new thing now, so it's ready for 2 months' time, and I've got it all prepared, so it's ready for deployment in 3 months' time when it's kind of before the curve. You said earlier that 8 years ago, if we spoke to you then, the concept of a podcast and speaking at live events, I guess, and this kind of thing would be a big no-no. What changed? How have you managed to change that?
So I was in a business workshop, and my mentor was leading the workshop, and it was about structuring your business and utilizing different strategies to grow. And so he comes up to me, and I was also like, I'm kind of like the nerd that's like in the classroom or like, hi, oh yeah, you guys should do this, and like somebody has an idea, and I'm like, oh yeah, this marketing tip. I'm like, you should definitely do this. And I'm like just giving people ideas like left and right. And so he comes up to me and he's like, you should really be a speaker. He's like, really know what you're doing. You have great ideas. People like you, and you should be a speaker. And I was like, no, absolutely not. I'm not getting up in front of stage and having everyone stare at me. And he's like, well, why do you do what you do? And I was like, well, I love helping people have their dreams come true and grow their businesses and all of the stuff. And he's like, so you can do that for more people at one time if you get up in front of hundreds and share. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I get that, but I don't want everyone staring at me and blah, blah, blah. So I was having a conversation with my mother, and she's like, you throw events, you literally talk to hundreds of people in one given night. And I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, but that's different. We're on one. It's a completely different vibe. And she's like, well,
Is
but
it?
yeah, she's like, but you still talk to them all. And you're not shy and you're not scared. And I was like, all right, you guys all have points. And so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get over like whatever my super insecurities are and really live into like what my mission is. Like I want to help more people, and I can do that at a greater pace getting up in front of stage. And then I like to travel, so when you speak on stages, it's not just in your hometown, it's all over. And so I kind of just got over that. And I mean, I don't get nervous really anymore, but when I like midway through I would still get nervous. And what I would think to myself is like, okay, I'm going to be like a contribution to everyone. Like people are going to get things. And my favorite part of this whole speaking thing is when somebody comes to the back of the room and is like, oh, I love that tip. I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
And now there's people that are like, oh, I already saw you speak. And this thing that you said last time, I'm going to use that tip. Or I used that tip and I got this client, I did this and this, and it took my business to the next level. And I'm like, yes. So I think that like now it's kind of like, all right, fine.
Sure. Once, and that is the thing, when you start doing that kind of output, when you start putting yourself out there, all of us, like, I hate the sound of my voice on a podcast. I don't look the way I look on video. I don't like the way I am on stage. All of us have all of those insecurities. But if if you can push through and get past some of those insecurities, the reward from, like you say, helping people and getting that little feedback from someone saying like, thank you. Like, I really like that. That helps me in whichever way, makes it kind of worth it and gives you enough fuel to like keep going and doing more and getting better at it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've had people like make fun of my voice before and all of these things, and I'm like, somebody doesn't have to say something. And if all you had to take away from that whole thing was that my voice sounded weird, like, okay, cool. I must have just spoke for like 40 minutes and sounded really fantastic on like the content that I was delivering. That all you had to critique was like the sound of my voice. So, it is what it is. And then I've had clients also too that I think a lot of male clients, I have a lot of business coaches that I work with. So my male coaches from like 45 to 60, they're not really used to sharing on social media so much.
Hmm.
And so I think, and then they're like, well, I don't want to brag or I don't want to, seem like this and so what I always tell them is that when we share and when we share your message and we give people tips and things like that, like we're sharing your expert advice and that's a contribution to somebody. Maybe not to everybody, but to somebody, and somebody will have a takeaway that will help them. And so like that's kind of just where I look at it. Like we have to have exposure in marketing. No one's gonna knock on our door and say, "Hey, I want to buy your product."
Please. I know it just never happens. And the thing I find really interesting, excuse me, speaking to people who, like you say, are 45 to 60, social media has snuck up on them as opposed to they've grown up with it. And they're the ones who are saying things like, as you say, I don't want to humble brag. I don't want to show off too much. I'll do it. If I talk about this thing that I know really well, it just sounds like I'm bragging. And actually, it's what young influencers don't have is they don't have the experience. They've got all of the output nailed. They know exactly how to get the message out there, but they're actually crafting some of that message as they go, as we all are. But someone who's 45 to 60 has had a wealth more of experiences and actually has something to say, if you know what I mean, or the opportunity for more experiences to be put across. But they're also it's a weird thing to say, cool, now say it all on video. Immediately like, oh, there's lights and there's, oh, what do I do? How do I say it? Oh, do I usually say it like this? And you watch people lose themselves. So how do you help people then if they're in that mindset? How do you get them to start kind of pushing out content then? Is it Instagram first, or do you focus on LinkedIn or written messages? How, if someone has to break the seal and it's something they've not done before, well, how do they even start?
Well, when I start with a client, we talk about their goals and then we break down their marketing plan per those goals. So it's like, okay, you want 5 new clients or you want this. So how are we going to get that? How are we enticing people? And what demographic are we focusing on? And what product line are we focusing on? So I will take a business coach, for example, I will take their overall product and break it down into different levels. So you have your like done for you products. You have your entry level. So I'll break down
Sure.
their product and then I'll talk about the different demographics and which platform we're going to connect with those types of people for that product line. And then I break down, okay, these are the touch points. So I'm always like, we need 7 to 12 touch points with somebody for them to make a decision for them to purchase.
Mm.
So how do we get them comfortable with you? What do we put in? Do we need to have a virtual event, a webinar, a whatever it is. So when it's broken down into the components of this is our strategy to get to this ultimate goal, it makes it a bit easier because people that have been in business a long time, they understand that. That is like, okay, yes, we're projecting this. These are the steps we need to take to attract this customer. And we're going to use this platform. So Instagram or LinkedIn or, you know, we're going to do a podcast. So when it's broken down like that, somebody that's been in business, they understand that language and it's tangible. And so I'm like, okay, this is the subject matter. I will do recordings. I will do interview style recordings with my clients. We have weekly calls
Okay.
and I'll be like, okay, you want to talk about this? So I will just put on an Otter, like the recording app, and I'll prompt them. I'll ask them questions and then they'll go through and talk about their subject matter. And
Right.
I'll take that information, I'll break it down, put it on posts for them. I will create their blog posts, I'll create their email blasts. We'll even take the video recording sometimes and I'll cut that up to create content.
Why not?
And so when it's all said and done that way, because it seems like an organic conversation with me, we're doing virtual conversations anyways, and or meetings. And so when it's I break down the content like that, they don't even realize it. They just feel like they're having a conversation with me.
Amazing.
And then I
Amazing.
have all of these content.
And all just based on that one point. And I think that's one of the things that is it's so important. If you're gonna actually utilize content marketing effectively, and you're gonna get yourself to a point where you're able to release in a consistent basis, then you have to plan this out. You have to think of it of how are we going to release these different levels of content, different times. Take the videos, cut out a snippet. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. But you can't get too lost in spending time creating all of that content. Like you won't be able to do your job, and then ultimately, what's the point? You're trying to do this for a reason. So if you can find ways to minimize the amount of time you're having to spend, but actually maximize the content you're getting out in the back end, it's just the smartest way possible to kind of win at content marketing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think other like people that didn't grow up in social media where they're not taking a million videos or photos of every single thing in their daily life. Like I show my clients, okay, this is what you're doing. I'll teach them how to like do an angle on their phone, or I'm like, okay, if you do this, meet with a client, this is what you want to do. So I give them some sort of protocol. But facts are they don't usually do that until I come around. And so I'm like, all right, I need you to bring 3 different shirts. We're gonna go to this location. We're gonna take some photos, and I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna make some graphics. I'm gonna take some videos. So I had my client yesterday. He went to Harvard Business School, and so we went to Harvard just to take some pictures. It was actually a nice day in Boston in our fall, which is
Not
surprising.
bad. Not bad in November. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we went around and I just had him talk. I'm like, tell me about, the things that you learned here or nuggets that you want to share. So we're taking pictures and he's just chit-chatting with me and I'm like, it's all calculated for me, but he's just walking around. I'm like, okay, stop. Okay, put on your sweater. And so it's just, you have to be creative and like you said, you can't spend so much time just creating content because there's an ultimate goal there.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing that amazes, again, if we talk about the people who are 45 to 60, because it's a nice group that I don't think are talked about enough on social media, quite frankly. But those people who are getting into it, they can take the time to craft the messaging correctly, and they're usually the people who understand that their experience is why people purchase from them. It's why people want to work with them as a business. It's people. It's you. I really like you and the way you're working. So it's a strange dichotomy, the fact that they understand that if they're talking one to one to someone, but the concept of sharing that information seems taboo and almost too much, and that would be a show off. Where I think it harks back exactly to what you said earlier. Is do you want to, even if you're the most evil salesperson in the world, right? And you can put 300, 400 calls up a day. And when I used to work in sales, I would have loved to have been that guy. But if you can do that, that's only 400 people a day. It's only 2,000 people, yeah, a week. You can get more than that on a singular post. You can speak to more people than that in one auditorium, in one talk, and the growth from that is so much. And I think when you can start to get people to understand that, is like, you can't make this many phone calls, you can't shake this many hands as you can on a stage, or using social as your stage to actually get out in front of people. You just can't.
Yeah, and also too, people will go back to social media to do their research, to
Mm.
see what kinds of content. I've come across some people and they're just like, yeah, we're posting every day. And I'm like, okay, let's see. I'm like, so why is there a picture of your cat? Like, do you sell cat food? And there's a lot of pictures, a lot of blurry pictures of your cat. Or like I don't even know, is this your personal page? Like, do you sell something?
Mhm.
And so it's interesting. Like, some people just are like, oh, we got to post on social media. And they don't think about how to like curate their message. So
Mm.
one of my catchphrases, it's all about the narrative
So
and
true.
how you share your message. And I like to have people really focus into their core values, because there's some people that will just post random things like cats and popsicles. And I'm like, what is that?
You don't have to be crazy to work here. Ugh.
Yeah. And then there's the people that are just like, buy me, buy me, buy me. And I'm like, they're like, well, I'm not getting a lot of followers on Instagram. And I'm like, because nobody cares about buying your catalog.
Right? What do you? Which page do you follow that just sells at you all the time? That you're like, oh, thank God, another sales post. It's just not. It doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. I'm like, you have to create a community and share your, like, the narrative of your brand. And yes, of course, you want to share your products and services, but I do 80/20. So 80% really great expert content, sharing, your tips and your core values. And so, like, I like to travel. So my Instagram page for iMedia exposure, there's travel things, there's pretty things. We show,
Sure.
good imagery of like, okay, do a flat lay. This is what a flat lay looks like. Or, you know, here's the tip on how to create your sales and marketing funnel. Or, what are you, we do a little, motivational pep talks, and like, we're very conversational, and I try to be friendly, but that's just like how I am to my clients and customers. When I got put on front of stage, I stopped being that like robot. Like when I first started, I was like, okay, be professional, be that robot, like, do these things. These are the mechanics of how you do a presentation from stage. Like, that's like what my mind was. And I was like, eh. And then when I started just being myself, like, oh, hi guys, like, oh, whatever. And
This is me. This is me, and it's the easiest thing to be. Well, it's a cliche because it's not, but it's so easy to be natural. Like it's easy to be you when you work out how to do that on stage.
yeah, exactly. And when you are just authentic, and even in videos and stuff too, like I've seen videos that aren't like super perfect, but the person just has like an authentic conversation.
Mm.
And you're like, oh, okay, I can like relate. But what I do hate is when people do their like monologues in their car for like 45 minutes on a live.
I hear you. I absolutely hear you because it's one of the things I think we've done. Um, Add a little production if you're going to do anything, right? If it was 50 years ago and to have a business, I needed a shop window. I wouldn't have like a dirty window and a mannequin half dressed in there with only some of my clothes and the spring line still on there. I would think about it. I would have that out there and make it as good as it can be. And I think, because we can all just grab a phone and be like, hi guys, I'm doing this. There's some places where that's good. And, it's nice that stories has actually been rolled out across LinkedIn, across most of the world now, so that there is a place for that sort of content. But that's not good enough. It's, only that isn't enough to show off your brand, because even before going into a meeting, you make yourself look great and everything. Sat in a car when you're at the back, pre-meeting when you've just driven loads of places. That's not you looking at your best. That's not you being your best. And it's like you say, it's not the most interesting thing it could be.
Yeah, it's always so boring to me. It's like this huge thing, like in the car. And I don't mind if it's like a quick clip too.
Sure.
But you're going live for 45 minutes ranting and raving, and I'm getting those notifications because live notifications come up. And I'm like, oh God. Like, people turn off directly. They're not watching that.
Well, no, and is your internet good enough? Is the lighting good enough? Is there a chance that a truck's going to drive past and meow while you're on the show? Like, at least you can do is try and find the quietest kitchen you can during lockdown, and and that's what I think. People always say, I'm very energetic and I try and put a lot of energy into these shows, and I think it's like it's a duty. If I'm going to be on a show, if I'm going to invite a guest, the least I can do is show up and give as much as possible and be as engaged in that conversation. And we try and get as much value out of that conversation as possible, if only for you and I. There are, forget the fact that there's people watching and this will be released as podcasts and YouTubes and snippets and all kinds of content later. You're taking the time to come and sit down, we have a conversation, like put the energy into that. And for the same reason, I have some lights, so it's not too dark and such. And I've got a microphone so it sounds half good. And you take that effort to make sure that you're at least putting together some level of production, even when you're at home and you're and you're doing the best you can,
I bought all these microphones. So one of my videographer friends was like suggested some of these microphones, and so I bought them all. They're still in the box. And I'm like, so I tried to use it once and I couldn't get it. I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, okay, I'll get around to it. It's still in the box. I need to get that out and like actually figure out how to like, there's like four of the microphones that came in the box. And I was like, well, which one goes
here? Ooh, but now there's too many. Oh no. And what, I'm exactly the same. If I don't have this kind of put up and set up in front of me, kind of what we do a lot with when we work with people, it's like, what level are you at? Oh, I've looked it all up and I've seen the thing and I was thinking this, and this. Okay, cool. You can have loads of information. Then you can find out how all the buttons work. Or you speak to me and I'm like, I don't know. I just want to does it go in the hole? Which one does it go in? And will it work straight away? Because that's all I want. Okay, well, here's this one and try and work with clients. So over lockdown, everything's changed. I don't like to use pivot because it's been just overused and it makes me think of Friends. But how has your business had to change? Have you had to adapt? Have you had to grow? Have you had to try and find new avenues? What's been the biggest kind of, I guess, what's the best thing you're taking out of 2020?
I mean, a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about 2020. And, obviously I shared that I couldn't travel and speak on stages and that was a bummer, but I did a lot more virtual events.
Okay.
And that's fun. I can do way more events and way more things when I don't have to travel somewhere and I can just be in front of my computer. I can just roll out of bed and be like, hi. Obviously, I had makeup on, so that's not the case.
I was going to say, this is how you roll out of bed because this is how I roll out of bed. And okay.
I wish I was a guy, so I didn't have to feel obligated to put on makeup.
Oh, exactly. I mean, worst case scenario, I shave my head to make myself look really pretty. There you go.
So one thing that I did do is since there was so many free virtual events and so much free information online, and I have a digital course, and I would have lots of people that were like, we know we need digital marketing. And I was like, okay, so these are my done for you prices.
Yeah.
This is my marketing plan creation pricing. And this is my digital course. This is what I created for people that just want to get in a little bit, that don't want to invest in, having an outsourced marketing team. And so people were like, that sounds great. That's exactly what I need. But I really like you. And I really want you to help me.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, awesome. These are our options. And so what I created was I compiled my digital course and I created a 10-week program, which was live meetings.
Right.
So I meet with clients 1 hour a week and I do small groups. So I do groups of 5. So I don't let it get big. So I have enough time to go through.
Yeah, and that way everyone can ask questions, everyone can be involved, everyone can kind of learn off of each other in a group of 5, but you start going 10, 50, then it's just your message out to everybody, and as soon as you start getting any return, it's just white noise.
Exactly. And I utilize it kind of like a focus group as well, too. So I'll share my opinion on something that a client wants to create. And then I'll say, okay, well, this person in the group or all the women in this group, because it's been a lot of women in my groups, I'm like, they have, this is your target demographic. So ask them, would they purchase this? Would this be interesting? I'm like, you get a focus group out of this too, because these are technically your target. And so that's been really helpful. In the program itself, people are supposed to come out and have their marketing plan created.
Right.
But of course, a lot with digital courses, people don't do the work and they don't complete it to the end. And I can see the progress of like who's watched the videos, how far they've watched each video, like on the back end. And so now with this course, basically I go over what they need to do. There's the videos and the templates of what they need to do. And then the next session, we're together and I go over and then I say, okay, add this. Here's this contact. I need you to introduce you to this person,
Nice.
partner with this person. And so it's been a lot more helpful for people because there's the accountability, there's a sense of community,
Right.
giving them the direction in it. So it's the digital course with all of the templates, the guides, but
Wow.
then I'm there with them, making sure that, and I'm giving them ideas too throughout
Uh-huh.
the whole thing. So what I would do with my clients, like my one-on-one marketing clients, where I'm like, okay, let's do this. How about this? Look at this suggestion. So that's kind of a change that I made to the
Amazing.
program.
And is that something that you're going to like bring into post lockdown? Once post lockdown happens and the world opens up, and whenever that do you reckon that's something that you're going to continue doing?
Yeah, I'm going to keep doing it because it's been really effective and I only have to spend an hour
Yeah.
a week. And even if I did 5 of them a week, that's 5 hours a week.
Sure.
And I'm helping more people and they're actually getting the work done. And there's this whole system created around it. So it's definitely an easy way for me to scale because,
Yeah.
you're doing done for you clients. It takes so much time and effort and you're doing all of these different components. And this program, it's
But
a
if you and if you were to do the same meeting at someone's office, even if say those 5 offices or working environments were super close to you, there's still, you arrive, there's half an hour of coffee and tea, or probably more tea in the UK and coffee in the States, but and some biscuits and hi, how you doing, where you going, okay, go and set up in there, great. So it's not an hour, easily, even if you were rude and you kind of flew in and flew out of there, you're going to be there for 2 hours. And I do enjoy, one of the things, with so many meetings now and so many of this kind of interaction happening via Zoom or some sort of video calling service. I love the fact that it is great. I have to stop here, hard stop. Everyone understands. An hour's done. In 15 minutes, I can have a coffee, be completely rejuvenated, and jump back into the same, another of the same session. Whereas in real life, I would have to, maybe be able to get 2 in a journey in between driving to and from, and I'd stop for lunch and the whole thing. So it has been good. And I think the only negative is that you can have overdrive of that. And I've had a few days when I've done 8 hours straight of meeting after meeting after meeting. And at the end of it, I'm looking at my notes and, one just has my name written on it lots of times that I've been doodling. And I'm like, oh no, what were my notes? Like, I have nothing to say.
Yeah, for sure. I like the concept of just, I'll just have people back to back. Like, okay, my next client's on right now. Or like, we have a hard stop at 8.
Yeah.
But I know that the next person hasn't logged in yet. So we can chat until they come in. It goes on and on. I'll just sit there and I'm like, oh, maybe I should go to the bathroom or drink some water.
I'm 4 hours deep here. Like, oh my. I know. Well, look, Farhana, we really try and keep this about sort of half an hour because it's released on LinkedIn, and also just so people can listen to this and watch it while they're working, and it's not taking up too much of their day, so no one gets a telling off from their boss. So for the people out there, they want to follow you, want to find you, they want to do this course because it sounds fantastic. Let the people know where they find you.
So everyone can follow and find me at iMedia Exposure. Farhana Cannon, I'm the only one in the whole wide world. So if you even just put in my name, you will find me on every single platform. But company name is the letter I, Media Exposure. And particularly on Instagram, if you follow me on there, in my link, there is a bunch of different freebies. I love having strategy sessions. So there's the complimentary strategy session in there where we'll go over your social media platforms and I'll give you some quick tips on how you can grow your business just from that 20 minutes. And then I can tell you about the different things that we offer as well if you're interested.
What a brilliant service. Well, there you go. Guys, please follow Farhana. As you can tell, an absolute wealth of knowledge. And thank you so much for coming on the show today. That, folks, is The Jaylee Show.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.